over the weekend when we had dinner, I sent some folks out to the neighborhood, to some neighborhoods to ask for canned goods because we're replenishing our food pantry. You can see them all back there. They got a ton of them. They did a great job. And then on Saturday night, I was asking for stories from service projects. Ethan, where are you at? There you are. Ethan came up and talks about a lady that he interacted with. What was your definition for her, description for her? She was salty. That's right. She was salty. She was probably taking her Saturday afternoon nap, and did not like being disturbed, even if it meant for giving canned goods to a food pantry. So she was salty, and salty obviously has a negative connotation now. It means angry or bitter or just annoyed, so much so that you're going to let other people know. And maybe you've been salty before about something. Maybe you tried out for a team and didn't make it, and even though you worked really hard and you really wanted it and didn't make the team, and you were salty. You were salty towards your friends who made the team. You're salty towards your coach, something like that. Maybe there's a class that you were having a lot of trouble in, and you just couldn't get ahead in there, and then all of a sudden your teacher announces that she's gonna have a pop quiz or something like that, and just drive your grade even further into the abyss. And so you're salty about that. Or maybe there's this guy or girl that you asked out, and they said, I'm not really looking to date anybody right now. And then you hear like 3 days later they're dating somebody else, and you're salty about that. Well, I have a story about being salty, especially when it comes to dating. I was a freshman in high school, and when I was in high school, I did musicals. I was in all these musicals. My freshman year, we did Oklahoma. Has anybody ever heard of that musical, Oklahoma? No. Okay, a few of the adults have. Excellent. I will not thrill you by singing any of those songs. But anyway, it was set in Oklahoma, obviously. But that's not the point. It was the point is there was this girl that I was really interested in that was in the musical. She was the lead female character in the musical. She was a junior in high school, and here I was a freshman, and I had a big crush on her. And so I worked up the courage and said, I'm going to ask her out. I'm going to ask her to go out with me. And I know it's a big risk, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so I made the decision to ask her out, but then it took a couple weeks till I get her alone, because I didn't want to ask her out in front of other people, because that's embarrassing. And so I waited for her I waited to find her off to the side somewhere. And one day I found her after rehearsal. I was like, she's by herself. I have to do this. I do it now or it's never going to happen. So I ran. I was like, Mandy. And she's like, oh, hey, Eric, what's up? And I'm like, hold on a second. I'm out of breath. Hold on. And so I proceeded to ask her. I asked her out. And it was out. I mean, I couldn't take it back in. I couldn't take all those words back in. And so I just, I asked her out. She put her hand on my arm. I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. And she said, oh, Eric, you're so sweet. And I was like, oh. That's not what you want to hear. And she said, well, Eric, you're so sweet, but you're the same age as my brother, and it would just be weird. And you know what? I went away from that. I wasn't upset about that, because that's a valid point for her. That would be a concern. Her brother and I were not friends, and it would be weird for me to be dating her and dating somebody that's the same age as her brother would be weird for her, and I understood that. Totally not a problem. And we went on with everything just as it was before. But throughout the rehearsals, all of a sudden I see her interacting with another guy in a way that made me think that she was interested in him, and that didn't bother me, except the fact that he was also a freshman in high school, and so they were like, being all flirty and cute and laughing at each other's jokes that weren't funny and all those things that you do when you're flirting, and I got really suspicious of that, and then come to find out, sure enough, they started dating, and I got salty. I got salty. I was annoyed. I was mad. I had some righteous indignation in my heart, and I wanted something done about it. And so I went up to her and I was like, how dare you treat me like this? I thought we were cool. You didn't tell me that I was ugly. You didn't tell me that you didn't like me. You said the only reason we weren't dating is because of my age. And here you are dating somebody that's my age, and I shouldn't have said any of that stuff, because what I thought before was just the age thing, but I thought I was still cool. I thought, maybe she still thinks I'm cute, whatever. She doesn't like because of the age. Turns out that she had absolutely no interest in dating me at all, no matter what age I was. And I wouldn't have found all that stuff out if I had not been salty and confronted her about it. So it was not a good situation for my self-esteem there, being salty. Saltiness can sometimes get you in trouble. Sometimes saltiness makes you the funny story on a Saturday night of D Now. Sometimes saltiness might make you the freshman who gets turned down by the junior because they don't like you. And if you would have shut your mouth, you would have thought everything was fine. But no, you had to open your mouth and find out she really doesn't like you and thinks you're not interesting at all. Yeah, so that was not a fun time for me. But saltiness can be bad. But the funny thing is about saltiness is that this idea of being salty, this negative connotation about being salty, is kind of a recent thing. Because if you look back in the past, especially in the Bible, Jesus actually tells us to be salty. Jesus says to be salty. It's a very different definition than what you guys think of as being salty. Well, I mean, sometimes Christians are really good at being modern kind of salty. We can get pretty annoyed and get pretty angry at stuff. But Jesus has a different understanding of salty in mind. And when you look at this verse that we're going to look at today, we got to understand a couple things. We got to understand first that when Jesus talks about salt in Matthew, he's talking about it in a different way than what you and I think of. You see, like table salt right now is everywhere. You put salt on everything. It's on every single table at a restaurant. It's so prevalent that you don't even think about salt being any kind of a commodity. But in fact, in Jesus' day, salt was used for a lot of things. It was used for flavor, like we use it now. It was used to preserve food and to prevent decay. They didn't have refrigerators or freezers, and so they would use salt. And if you pack the salt into the food, it helps keep longer. They use salt to fertilize. If you spread salt around in small enough amounts, the salt would act as a fertilizer. They use salt to stop leaks. They use salt to heal wounds. Salt had all kinds of uses in Jesus' day. And Jesus actually tells us to be salt. And when he tells us to be salt, he has all those things in mind. And so today we're going to talk about Jesus telling us to be salt. And we're going to look at what it means for Christians to be salt as a way to enhance the flavor of this world and as a way to preserve the world and prevent decay. So turn your Bibles with me to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5. If you got your Bibles with you, if you have your phone Bibles with you, you can use those as well. We'll be in Matthew chapter 5. Now, Matthew chapter 5 is the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. We've talked about different aspects of the Sermon on the Mount before. About a year and a half ago, we talked through the Beatitudes, and Aaron talked about those just a little bit at the beginning of Friday night. And that's where Jesus pronounces these blessings on people that you wouldn't normally expect to be blessed. He says, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are the meek, blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. And they're great things to read. If you ever want to find out the characteristics of a person that Jesus values, look at the Beatitudes. You can look at the kind of people whose heart Jesus goes out to, or Jesus' heart goes out to, and the kind of people our heart should go out to. That's what you find in the Beatitudes. But then he turns to his followers, his disciples, and he tells us two things about ourselves. And we talked about one of those things all weekend long. We talked about being light. But he also says to be salt. And so Matthew chapter 5, verse 13, we're just going to look at one verse tonight. It says this: "You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet." Just stop right there. We're actually going to just focus mainly on the first 7 words of that verse. You are the salt of the earth. Jesus tells his followers, all those people gathered around him on this mountain, he said, and he tells us by way of his scripture, he's telling them, but he's also telling us that we're the salt of the earth. And so when we think about that, when we think about the purposes of salt, when we think about what Jesus had in mind when he was talking about salt, we can get an idea of what he means by that. First of all, we said salt is a flavor enhancer. Salt enhances the flavor of something. Now, I consider myself a connoisseur of mashed potatoes. Anybody else a mashed potato connoisseur? Excellent. If mashed potatoes are an option for a side item, 9 out of 10 times, that's what I'm going to get. I love mashed potatoes. And in fact, I will put Julie's mashed potatoes up against anybody else's mashed potatoes, even your mama's mashed potatoes. I'll put Julie's up against it. If Julie calls me and tells me, hey, dinner's about ready, and I say, hey, what do we have? And she says, mashed potatoes, I'm shutting my books, I'm putting everything away, I'm ending anything possible. I'm running home to get Julie's mashed potatoes. And if I don't get home, Helen will eat all of her mashed potatoes and all of my mashed potatoes. And so I run home to get mashed potatoes. But because I order mashed potatoes so much, and because I have tasted Julie's mashed potatoes, I know how good mashed potatoes can be. When I come across bland mashed potatoes, it's like eating grits without any flavoring in it. It's like, wow. It just tastes like nothing. It's just bland. And so we have to add salt to that and just to try to add some flavor to it. And that's the idea when Jesus is talking about us being salt. We're a flavor enhancer because we have tasted the best. We have tasted of God. We've tasted of Jesus, and we know the joy that He offers. We know that the happiness that He offers. We know the acceptance that He offers. We know that He values us. We know all of these things, and we know them more than anybody else does. And so what the world offers then is just bland. When the world offers us happiness, we say, no, you can have that. I've tasted joy. When the world offers us some kind of acceptance, we say, no, you accept me for whatever I am right now, but as soon as I change, you're going to turn your back on me. Let me tell you about this taste that I've got over here for Jesus, because He accepts me no matter what. You say, hey, the world will say, hey, we value you. And you say, no, you're going to value me until I change my mind or change my opinion, and you're going to dump me. Let me tell you about Jesus, who values me more than anybody else and will always value me. And so we have this enhanced flavor that we can compare to the world and say, no, world, that is bland. What you're offering has no flavor. What you're offering has no taste. It has nothing to offer because I've tasted the best, because I've got the best. It's not enough though just to know that stuff. Then you say, you know what, I've got this. Let me show it to you. Let me show you to you. When I'm out at a restaurant and people are eating mashed potatoes and they talk about how good they are, I become a Julie mashed potato evangelist. I say, oh, that's nice that you think that's so good. That's really cute. I can see that you think that you have special mashed potatoes. Let me tell you about Julie's mashed potatoes. First of all, they're creamy. They're creamy. They have some lumps in them, but that's how you know it's real. I'll tell you about the cream that she puts in there, the whole milk, and just a right amount of salt. It's beautiful. I've got the best. I've had the best. And I invite them over for a mashed potato dessert afterwards. When we are salt, when Jesus tells us that we are salt, it's because we have experienced this enhanced flavor that comes with the knowledge and the relationship that we have with Jesus. And then we take that relationship and we enhance the flavor of the world. We say your joy is bland. The happiness that you offer is bland because I'm offering you real joy that is incomparable to that. These other things that you're offering, the fun that you're offering, the inclusion, the belonging that the world is offering, the world that is so bland. Let me tell you about what life is like with Jesus. Let me tell you about the rich flavors that He has for you. Jesus tells us that we are salt. And so we enhance the flavor of the world around us. We also said that salt will preserve food and it prevents it from decay. Now, I'm not a chemist. That's my sister's forte. That's what she does. But I was doing some reading about it, and so basically I'm a chemist now. Salt, it says, prevents bacteria from growing because it dehydrates the meat. It takes away the water molecules that bacteria need to live and grow. And so you have all these different bacteria that are present in food, and bacteria will grow and cause all kinds of problems if it's not in the right conditions, like salmonella. If you have a chicken or something that's left out, and this salmonella bacteria will grow, and it needs water to do that. Well, salt is used to preserve food, especially back in the day when they didn't have refrigerators or freezers or anything like that. They used salt to preserve food, and it would dehydrate the meat enough so that the bacteria couldn't grow anymore. And because it was preventing all this bacteria from growing, then it was preserving the food and it could keep longer. And so, and if you think about it, you already know this. Even if you don't know that you already know this, you already know this. So what are pickles made out of? Cucumbers, that's right. Cucumbers. Now, every now and then we will get a wild bug in us and say, you know what, we want to get some fresh vegetables and make a salad from scratch. And so we'll go to the store, and you don't just get like you don't just get like 4 cucumbers to make a salad. You got to get a whole big cucumber to make a salad. So you chop it all up, and you got to get a big old head of lettuce and chop it up, and you end up making this massive salad. And you're like, if I don't eat this in 2 days, it's going to go bad. And that's because cucumbers, for instance, will go bad in 1 or 2 days if they're sliced up. But a pickle, which is basically a cucumber soaked in this salt solution, a pickle lasts 1 to 2 years. A pickle doesn't go bad for like 1.5 years, 2 years. A cucumber goes bad after 1 or 2 days, but this pickle soaked in this salt solution lasts for years. Salt prevents decay by preventing bacteria from growing, and it preserves food. In Jesus' day, they used salt for that very same reason. So when Jesus tells us that we are salt, he's telling us that we preserve the world and we prevent its decay. The problem that causes the decay of the world is sin. It's been that way since Genesis chapter 3. Once sin entered the world, everything started decaying. That's why we have physical decay. That's why our bodies decline. That's why we have spiritual decay. That's why we have mental decay. That's why we have environmental decay. All this decay in the world is because of sin. But as Christians, we are the salt that prevents that decay. Because we have this special property in us that preserves us for eternity. If we have a relationship with Jesus Christ, we have this special property about us that makes us last for eternity. Our souls do not decay over time because we have the salt of Jesus Christ. And so we prevent decay then by pointing other people to Jesus and telling them about the eternal life that they can have. We preserve and we prevent decay by pointing people to Jesus. Preserve and we prevent decay by pointing people to Jesus. And let me just give you a few examples of how that works out. So friendships might decay over time due to something like gossip or lying to each other, talking about each other behind your back. And as Christians, we prevent that decay and we preserve our friendship by rejecting the sin of gossip, rejecting the sin of lying, and preserving that trust between friends. Well, we've talked before about pornography and how pornography will actually transform your brain, like makes physical changes to your brain that decays parts of your brain. And so as Christians, we reject that sin of pornography and we preserve our brain, we prevent that from decay. We might see friends hurting themselves with decisions that they're making, and so we prevent decay by inserting ourselves into their lives and pointing them towards God. Let me just stop right there for a second and talk about this particular situation for a second. And middle schoolers, maybe you've not experienced this before, but you will. High schoolers, you might know this. There might be somebody that you grew up in church with, somebody that you know they went to all the camps growing up, they went to RAs and GAs or whatever their church had. They were involved in camps and mission trips. They were in church every Sunday and every Wednesday, but for some reason or another, they've fallen away. They're not here anymore. Maybe they're making some decisions that are destructive for them. Maybe they're getting into drinking and drugs. Maybe they're just separating themselves from everybody else and becoming a loner. Maybe they're doing something that's just really damaging to them. And at this point, you have a choice to make. You have a choice to make. As Jesus tells us to be salt, and you see a friend who is hurting themselves, who is accelerating this decay, you have a choice to make. One choice is that you can just separate yourselves and let them go on and do their own thing and say, man, that's just really too bad. Or maybe the other choice is that you can insert yourself into their lives and prevent decay by being salt in their life. Now there might be times when that first option is the best option, especially if they have a struggle that you struggle with. You know, if you struggle with getting trashed on the weekends, then it's probably not a good idea to go evangelize at a party and insert yourself into somebody's life at a party where you know you're going to be tempted. But maybe that only works some of the times. Maybe that's the best decision. Some of the times, most of the time, the best decision that you can make as salt is to insert yourself into their life and shine a light there and bring them out of that decay. You invite them to church. You invite them to somewhere else on a Friday night so they've got another option. You give them something else to do so that their excuse isn't, well, that's the only thing I had to do this weekend was to make these choices. That's the only thing I can do. You give them another option. You say, hey, why don't you come hang out with me? Why don't you go fishing with me? Why don't you come over and watch movies? Why don't we go to the gym and play basketball? Why don't you come to church with me on Wednesday night or Sunday morning? And they might say, I don't have a ride. That's when you go and get them. You go and get them and say, now you don't have an excuse. Say, well, I don't have anything to wear. And well, you wore clothes to school, so you have clothes to wear. You can come in whatever you wore to school that day. Whatever it takes. Being salt in somebody else's life means you're inserting yourself into their life and preventing decay. The only way for salt to prevent decay is for it to come into contact with the food that is decaying. It does no good if the salt is in a shaker and the food's sitting out on the counter. The salt and the food have to come into contact. And if you're going to be salt, if you're going to do this thing that Jesus has asked of us, then you have to come in contact with the world. You have to come in contact with what is decaying. You can't separate yourself and expect to be living out what Jesus has asked us to live out. And we're almost done here. Let me just finish up. The most obvious characteristic about salt is that it's different from everything else that it touches. If salt was the same consistency and the same taste as mashed potatoes, it wouldn't do anything for mashed potatoes. But because it's different, because it tastes different, because it has different properties, it makes a massive difference. Right? As Christians, as disciples of Jesus, as followers of Jesus, what makes us most effective is that we are different. Is that we stand out. Is that when people see us, they see Jesus, they see something different. They see us enhancing the flavor of the world. They see us preserving and preventing decay. They see something different about us. If you've ever eaten at Buffalo Wild Wings, who's eaten at Buffalo Wild Wings? Okay, delicious stuff, right? Now, if you've eaten at Buffalo Wild Wings, let me just finish with this. If you've eaten at Buffalo Wild Wings, then you know that their menu is filled. They have some spicy stuff. They have some healthy stuff. Then a lot of their stuff is like salty fried stuff, right? If you look at their appetizers, they have chips and salsa that's salty. They have mini corn dogs that's fried. They have buffalo chips. They have potato wedges, French fries. Oh gosh, that's delicious. It's good stuff. All of these things that Buffalo Wild Wings offers is loaded. They're loaded with salt, right? They're loaded with salt. There's a reason for that. There's a reason specifically why restaurants that are designed like Buffalo Wild Wings have so much salty food on the menu. And you've been in there before, so I'm not going to surprise you. Obviously, they sell a ton of alcohol. They sell a ton of beer in there. And Buffalo Wild Wings' business model, just like every other bar that serves food, their business model is if we serve salty food, they'll get more thirsty and they'll buy more alcohol. I mean, that's it. Because when you eat salty stuff, you get thirsty. So like when you eat pretzels, you get thirsty. When you eat popcorn, you get thirsty. If you are salt in this world, if you're salt to the people around you, if you're enhancing the flavor of the people around you, if you are preserving and preventing decay in the people around you, they're going to notice something about you. They're going to get thirsty for whatever you've got. You're going to create a thirst in them for something that's real, a thirst in them for something that is flavorful, and a thirst for something that doesn't decay. And that's when you get a chance to tell them the incredible story of Jesus. That's when you get a chance to tell them about the thing that Jesus has done in your life, that he has taken your sin and wiped it away and saved you for eternity. You get to tell them about this joy, this peace that you have because of Jesus Christ. Being salt changes you and it changes people. Jesus asked us to be salt and light. He asked us to be salt and light. And the thing that you have to remember, though, above all else, if you're going to be salt and light, you can't do it just in here. You can't just do it in this room. You got to do it out there. Shine more light in the room, it just gets brighter. But if you shine light in a darkness, in a dark space, and that sheds so much, that brightens everything up. If you're salt in a place that is not salty, that changes the taste of it, that changes the flavor of it, all of a sudden people notice something different. Go be salt and light. Go be salt and light in the world around you. Find people who need salt and need light. Insert yourself into their lives and point them towards Jesus. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much. We thank you so much for your word. We thank you for Jesus who came here to earth as a person. He walked this earth. He lived life on this earth, God, a perfect life. And then out of obedience to you, God, he died on the cross to pay for our sins. And he rose from the dead, defeating death and making a way for us to spend eternity with you. God, we thank you for the words that he said, that we can learn from them. We can look in the Bible and see what it means to follow him. God, I pray as we think about this idea of being salt and light, God, I pray that we're never content to be salt and light just in our rooms or in this room or in this building, God, that we will insert ourselves into the world around us. And God, that we would shine a light, God, that we would bring flavor, that we would preserve and then prevent decay in the world around us, God. Help us to seek out opportunities to be salt and light in the world. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Y'all have a good night.